Welcome to Tiny Storytime YT channel. Daily updates with satisfying stories. Remember to subscribe. My aunt exchanged her daughter for my younger sister, but I exposed her scheme. My sister was brought back, but it turned out she was born a bad seed. When she was 9, she pushed me off the balcony. Now, I've opened my eyes and found myself back on the day my sister was born. The air outside was cold. I realized I was standing outside the window of a hospital room. Then it hit me. This was the day my sister was born. In my previous life, it was the same time of year. Dad had to leave for work at a construction site, and I stayed at the hospital to accompany Mom. Mom had fallen asleep. On my way back from the bathroom, I noticed a shadow in the room through the window. I saw my aunt holding my baby sister. That moment, I was on the south side of the hospital room, so I had to circle through the hall to get in. By the time I ran into the room, my aunt was gone. There was a baby lying on the bed, but I remembered clearly. My sister had a birthmark behind her ear. This wasn't her. I went to find my sister. I hurried to my aunt's room and demanded she return my sister. My aunt refused to admit anything and even scolded me for being unreasonable. When Dad came back, I told him my sister had been swapped. My aunt and Dad confronted each other, and she stubbornly denied it, calling me a foolish child making things up. It wasn't until Dad demanded a paternity test that my aunt finally, begrudgingly, agreed to help us find my sister. It turned out my aunt had swapped my sister with her own premature daughter, who was in an incubator. She had placed my sister in the incubator in her daughter's place. Dad returned to the room with my cousin and handed her back to my aunt, his brows tightly furrowed. He had probably never encountered someone so shameless before. My aunt's husband, a businessman, was in prison, and even her hospital expenses had been paid by my family. Before my sister was born, Dad had always bought nutritional supplements for Mom, who, in her generosity, often told Dad to share some with my aunt. When Mom found out about the baby swap, she had a huge argument with my aunt. Afterward, my aunt left the hospital with my cousin and spread rumors about our family among the relatives, claiming my parents were horrible people. Not only did she refuse to pay back the hospital fees, but she also tarnished our reputation. My parents were angry but didn't bother clarifying, as everyone already knew the kind of person my aunt was. But what I never expected was that my biological sister turned out to be a born villain. At 4, she pushed a classmate down the slide at kindergarten, leaving the child seriously injured. My family sold our house and car to pay compensation. At 5, when Mom offered her some food, she stabbed Mom's left eye with chopsticks. At 8, when Dad refused to buy her a toy, she poured boiling water on his face while he slept. By that time, my parents were so afraid of her that they sent me to boarding school to protect me. When she was 9, I came home for a holiday, and she pushed me off the balcony. I still remember the searing pain of my shattered bones. But now, I'm back. Back to the day my sister was born. I watched my aunt swap my sister again. This time, I didn't say a word and quietly returned to the room. I decided not to make a fuss. On second thought, maybe it's better this way. If my aunt really thought she succeeded in swapping the babies and later realized my sister wasn't normal, she might send her back to us. Given how thick-skinned my aunt was, she'd definitely do it. So, I let her believe she hadn't succeeded. I knew my biological sister was currently in the incubator, and there was no need to confront my aunt. I picked up my cousin from the bed and placed her in the incubator. Then, I took my biological sister back to the room. Looking at her now, she seemed so innocent. But when I thought about what she would grow into, I had the urge to strangle her then and there. No, I had to hold back. Our family was living in peace and harmony. My little sister, Lily, was growing up step by step. Slowly but surely, she didn't show the same aggressive and abusive tendencies as she did in my previous life. This time, my mom didn't have to deal with cats hanging from trees or dead mice hidden in pots. Back then, she couldn't understand why her child would act like that and cried herself to sleep every night. Little did she know, those were just the beginning. The truly heartbreaking events were yet to come. After she lost her sight in one eye, she stopped crying altogether. Crying didn't help anymore. She silently took Lily to countless correctional facilities, trying to curb her misbehavior with a blank expression. But now, Life was so beautiful it felt almost unreal. On Lily's 3rd birthday, I made her a little charm for good luck. One for our entire family. She laughed and immediately tried to stuff it into her mouth. Dad chuckled as he took out his phone to snap pictures, saying, "When you grow up, I'll show you what a little goofball you were." Mom quickly pulled the charm, now covered in drool, out of her mouth, shaking her head. "Don't jinx it, or she really will turn into a little fool." Watching them, I felt a wave of bittersweet emotion and almost cried. Mom didn't look as prematurely aged as she did in my last life. She still looked young and full of energy. In my past life, by the time Lily was 3, Mom's hair had already turned half white from worry. My eyes started to sting with tears. Mom, ever perceptive, noticed my change in mood. She thought I was feeling neglected. "What's wrong, Emily?" she asked gently. "Mom can hug you too." She walked over and wrapped me in a warm embrace. Dad joined in, holding me tightly, not wanting to be left out. Lily toddled over on her tiny legs and hugged my leg. I laughed. They didn't know I was crying from happiness. That night, I woke up to the sound of Mom answering a phone call in the living room. Ever since Lily scalded Dad with boiling water in the middle of the night in my previous life, I had never slept soundly again. My sleep was light, and any noise woke me up. I got out of bed and went to the living room. On the phone, my aunt, Karen, was crying and begging Mom for money. "Please, I need your help. My daughter, Emma, got burned with hot water and is in the emergency room." That didn't happen in my past life. I couldn't help but wonder what had changed. What had Lily done this time to provoke Karen's husband? Jeff? Mom, soft-hearted as always, felt sorry for Emma, who was just an innocent child. Worried something might go wrong, I insisted on going to the hospital with Mom. Emma had suffered severe burns. The doctor was carefully treating her wounds. She didn't cry or complain, her wide eyes shining brightly. Karen sat nearby, arms crossed, with a bruise around her eye, as if she had been punched. Mom gasped when she saw Emma's injuries. "Karen, where's Jeff? How could he let this happen?" Karen shook her head. "He's not coming." Emma suddenly spoke up. No, Daddy." Daddy poured the hot water. The doctor treating Emma froze and asked in surprise, "Sweetheart, how did this happen?" Emma replied clearly, "Daddy used a kettle." Karen jumped up and covered Emma's mouth, laughing awkwardly. "She's just making things up. She burned herself while playing. I fell asleep and didn't keep an eye on her." The doctor gave Karen a skeptical look, while Emma stared at him with tears in her eyes, looking pitiful. Despite Karen's insistence that Emma had hurt herself, a nurse quietly called the police. When the officers arrived, I learned that Jeff was upstairs in the orthopedics department because Emma had nearly bitten off his pinky finger. That was why he had gotten so angry and scalded her with boiling water. Karen, who had been out working at the time, came back just in time to stop him. Otherwise, the boiling water might have splashed onto Emma's face. Jeff punched Karen before heading to the hospital himself, leaving Karen to bring Emma to the emergency room, bruised and broke. With no money to pay for Emma's treatment, Karen had no choice but to beg Mom for help. When we asked Emma why she bit Jeff, she firmly replied, "Daddy hit me." Jeff, drunk as usual, couldn't remember what had happened. My mom looked conflicted. Emma, my cousin, sweetly called out, "Auntie," and added, "Thank you, Auntie, for bringing me food. I love Auntie's cooking the most." Mom's resolve seemed to waver, and my heart sank. Quietly, I asked Lily, "Where's Dad?" As expected, Lily loudly demanded, "Daddy, I want Daddy. When will Daddy come home?" Mom seemed to realize she should consult Dad before making any decisions. She told Karen, "Let me discuss it with my husband when he gets home. I'll get back to you." Karen left with Emma, but surprisingly, she left behind a carton of milk, a rare act of generosity. That evening during dinner, my parents were discussing the matter. To my surprise, Dad didn't object to helping Karen. "Every time that kid calls me uncle, I feel so bad for her," he said. "She even thanks me. Poor thing. Poor thing. My foot." I thought bitterly, "Pity yourself instead." I couldn't help but ask Mom, "Why not send Emma to Grandma's house?" Mom paused, as if remembering something. That's true. Why not ask my mom to take care of her? She loves kids and always calls, asking me to bring you and Lily over. Mom called Grandma and put her on speakerphone. It was a habit in our family so everyone could join the conversation. Mom asked, did Karen mention sending Emma over for you to take care of? There was silence on the other end. Dad and Mom waited patiently for Grandma's response. After a long pause, Grandma coughed and said, I haven't been feeling too well lately. Mom immediately grew worried. I'll take you to the hospital tomorrow. Grandma deflected. It's nothing new. It's just the change in seasons. Makes me cough a bit. Don't come over. I already got medicine from the herbalist. Mom relented. All right, but take care of yourself. Okay, call me if anything comes up. Grandma was clearly avoiding the issue, but my parents didn't notice. It wasn't that Grandma was biased. She always helped whichever family was struggling the most. In my past life, when Lily pushed a classmate off a slide, Grandma told everyone it was an accident. When Mom lost her eye, Grandma told Karen it was an accident with an umbrella. Even when Dad was scalded, she still tried to cover it up. This time, she was siding with Karen again. But this wasn't right. Someone could get seriously hurt. Or worse, my parents were already planning when to bring Emma over. I was too young to have a say. If I told them about my past life, they'd find out Emma was actually Karen's biological daughter. I didn't know how my kind-hearted parents would handle that revelation. So for now, I decided to keep quiet. I was overwhelmed with worry. I barely touched my dinner, hugging my knees and staring out the window. Lily seemed to notice I was upset. She waddled over on her tiny legs, patting my back with her little hands. When she cried, we often patted her back to comfort her. Now she toddled out of my room and returned holding her favorite stuffed rabbit. She handed it to me and said, Sister, take it. Her rabbit was her most precious toy, and she never let anyone else touch it. But she willingly gave it to me. How could Lily be such an angel? I hugged her and the rabbit, gently stroking its ears. In a playful voice, I said, Sister's fine. Sister loves Lily and will always protect her. In my past life, Lily also had a stuffed rabbit, but she tore it to shreds. Then she took my teddy bear and shredded it too. But those were minor compared to what she did later, like dissecting the neighbor's cat. When she destroyed the rabbit, I scolded her harshly. From then on, she held a grudge against me. Emma was a maniac. I wasn't going to let her live in our house. I had already figured out what to do. The next day, I dyed my hair bright red and got a fake white tiger tattoo on my neck. I even skipped school. When Dad found me, I was walking out of a nightclub, casually smoking a cigarette. He stared at me, stunned, before dragging me back home. Mom was even more shocked. But instead of scolding me, she was more concerned. Emily, she said gently, what's wrong? Why didn't you go to school? Is someone bullying you? Or is a teacher treating you unfairly? You can tell Mom anything. I stayed silent and went straight to my room. Later, I cut up my teddy bear and threw it into the hallway. My parents took me to a psychologist. After learning that Mom was pregnant with a second child and that I had always been well behaved before, the psychologist earnestly advised them to pay more attention to me. She's the eldest, and a girl at that. The doctor explained, girls are more sensitive. Show her extra care. Following the doctor's advice, my parents took me to an amusement park, leaving Lily with a neighbor. Lily cried when we left, but it couldn't be helped. For the sake of our family's long-term peace, Lily, you'll understand one day. At the amusement park, I cautiously told my parents that I wanted them to pay more attention to me. That night, I overheard them talking in their room. It's my fault for being so busy with work and neglecting Emily, Dad said. And yours for focusing so much on Lily that you didn't notice how sad Emily was. Mom sighed. Karen called again today, asking when she can send Emma over. Maybe we should say no. We haven't even raised our own kids properly. Dad agreed. That's what I was thinking too. Seeing Emily at the park today broke my heart. Sometimes, magic can only be defeated by magic. If I acted out enough, my parents wouldn't have the energy to take care of another child. Sorry, Mom and Dad, but this is for our family's harmony. Life is a play, and I'm the actress. If Emma wanted to act sweet and innocent in front of my parents, I'd have to act like the rebellious daughter. My dad's business was improving, and we moved into a new house. In my previous life, he had been so preoccupied with my sister Lily's issues that his construction company only barely managed to stay afloat. Now, although I was a bit rebellious, it wasn't anything unbearable. I only saw my cousin Emma during holidays at Grandma's house. She seemed timid and respectful toward her father, Jeff, and didn't display any unusual behavior. However, this year, during the New Year celebrations, my Aunt Karen was missing an ear. Both Karen and Grandma claimed it had been bitten off by a madman on the street. My parents believed them and lamented how misfortune always seemed to follow Karen. Grandma said nothing, only sighed. I glanced at Emma, sitting quietly and obediently. Who could say which madman had really bitten off Karen's ear? During every family meal, Emma would stare at Lily, and it sent chills down my spine. Lily was so naive, always laughing cheerfully, completely unaware. Karen, on the other hand, looked much older, like how my mom had looked in my past life. Even so, every time Karen saw me, she couldn't resist taking a jab. Emily, you dyed your hair back. Huh, before. You look so improper. If my child had dyed their hair at such a young age, I wouldn't have let them off. Rebellious kids are always the parents' fault. We didn't respond to her. Ignoring Karen was the best way to deal with her. She was miserable in her own life and always needed to drag others down to feel superior. Once our new house was renovated, we transferred Lily to a kindergarten near the neighborhood. Every day, Lily came home talking about her new best friend, Little Apple. She referred to herself as Big Pear. A week later, Mom attended a parent open day and came back with surprising news. Guess what? She said. Little Apple is actually Emma. Our silly Lily didn't even recognize her from New Year's. My heart sank. In my past life, the classmate Lily pushed off the slide had also been her best friend in kindergarten. That girl's mother adored Lily, thinking she was kind and caring. They even became close friends with my mom, who believed Lily had turned over a new leaf. We enjoyed a few peaceful days, until Lily pushed her friend down the slide. It was likely because that child's family was wealthy and often brought toys Lily didn't have. Lily resented her for it. I suddenly remembered how Emma had been staring at Lily during the family gatherings. I asked Mom, wasn't Emma going to the community kindergarten near Aunt Karen's place? Mom replied, that kindergarten shut down after a safety incident. I immediately searched for news on my phone and found the local story. A month ago, during activity time, a young girl had wandered off and drowned. A chill ran down my spine. It seemed Lily had already acted once and gotten away with it. Now, Mom and Lily seemed to adore Emma. Mom packed extra snacks in Lily's backpack every day, telling her to share with Emma. In my past life, Lily had pushed her classmate off the slide when the teacher wasn't watching. The spot was a surveillance blind spot. That child ended up paralyzed but could still talk. Lily never admitted to what she had done. My parents knew their daughter's nature and agreed to pay compensation. I couldn't stop Lily from interacting with Emma, but I could try to keep Lily within the teacher's sight as much as possible. Every night, I told Lily bedtime stories, but recently, the stories had taken a darker turn. There was a child who wandered out of the teacher's sight and got eaten by a snake. There was a child who didn't listen to the teacher and got taken away by a monster. There was a child who left the classroom when the teacher wasn't looking and got kidnapped by a ghost. Lily was so scared she couldn't sleep. During dinner, Mom mentioned, Lily's teacher says she's been acting timid lately. I quickly looked down at my food, pretending not to hear. I felt a little guilty, but this was for Lily's own good. After school, I often went to observe the river near the community kindergarten. It was quiet, with no surveillance and only the occasional person fishing. I approached one of the fishermen, pretending to be the older sister of the drowned girl. Did you see anything a month ago, when a little girl fell into the river? The fisherman shook his head. I didn't see any little girl. If someone had, they'd have tried to save her. I felt even more uneasy. When Lily came home, she said, Little Apple hasn't been at school for the past 2 days. Mom speculated, maybe Emma's sick. Later that evening, Mom got a call from Karen. Karen never called unless she needed something. This time, she was asking for money again. Emma poked her left eye with a knitting needle. She needs surgery. My parents didn't like Karen, but they pitied Emma and agreed to go to the hospital. I went along, forcing them to take Lily as well. At the hospital, the doctor said Emma's vision might remain weak in her injured eye after surgery. Emma, ever composed, said, "It's okay. I still have my right eye to see with." She turned to Lily and added, "I just can't be Big Pear's princess anymore." Mom said, "Emma is such a thoughtful child." Dad added, "And so smart." Karen sighed constantly, her gaze full of a mix of love and fear when she looked at Emma. "I'd rather my child not be so clever," she said. After her surgery, my parents began discussing having Emma stay with us again. "Emily is mature now, she shouldn't rebel anymore." Dad said, "Emma has been through so much, burned by boiling water, now losing her eye. Karen's too busy working to take care of her." Mom added, "Karen's husband says Emma hurt herself, but I still have my doubts." "You're scaring me," Dad said. "Even animals don't harm their young." When Lily found out Emma might stay with us, she was thrilled. "Yay, I want to sleep with little Apple." I forced a smile and promised, "We'll buy Emma a Disney princess comforter too." Lily clapped her hands in excitement. Mom said, "Emma's coming home with us after she's discharged next week." And just like that, my peaceful world was about to end. That evening, I wandered back to the river near the old community kindergarten. An elderly man was fishing there. Noticing my gloomy expression, he struck up a conversation. I repeated my story as the sister of the drowned girl. The man sighed heavily. Such a tragedy for such a young child. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh. "There's a reservoir nearby with drone surveillance. I happen to know someone in charge of the reservoir. There was a chance they might have footage from that day." The friendly older man led me to the reservoir, where we accessed the footage using facial recognition. The video captured the area behind the kindergarten near the river. On the day of the incident, the footage showed two young girls near the riverbank. The images were small and unclear, so the person in charge zoomed in on the section of the riverbank. The footage rewound to when the two girls appeared. They had crawled out of a hole next to the kindergarten's back gate. As the video played, the man proudly explained their drone system. "Our latest technology captures everything in 360-degree HD." But soon, his expression turned grim, and he set his tea aside. In the footage, Emma coldly shoved the other girl into the river, her blank expression more chilling than any words could convey. The girl in the river struggled and cried for help, but the one on the bank stood with her arms crossed, unmoved. The older man turned to me cautiously. "Is that your sister?" I told the person in charge. "Could you anonymously send this video to the police?" Then I told the man, "I'm not her real sister, just a neighbor's kid." I couldn't risk Karen's family finding out I exposed the truth. When the drowned girl's family saw the video, they exploded with rage. They filed a lawsuit against Karen's family, demanding compensation. Karen's family, unsurprisingly, fought back, dragging the case out. The drowned girl's family wasn't short on money. They just wanted justice to ease the pain of losing their daughter. They hired the best legal team, determined to make Karen's family pay. The video was eventually leaked online. Although it was quickly taken down, it spread widely beforehand. My parents saw it, too. The kindergarten Lily attended closed for 2 days because of the incident. Mom looked at Lily, still shaken. Dad said, "How can such a young child be so evil? So skilled at hiding it?" Mom replied, "It's terrifying." Dad added, "I don't even know how to talk to Lily about this. Thank goodness we didn't take her in back then." Emily's rebellious phase came just in time. Mom nodded. "We still need to tell Lily not to leave the teacher's sight. The teacher said she's timid, but being timid is good." She turned to me. "Emily, keep telling her scary bedtime stories." Karen's family, of course, had no money to pay compensation. Karen called my mom again, asking for a loan. She claimed Jeff had beaten Emma so badly in a fit of rage that she was hospitalized. Every time the girl's family demands money, Jeff takes it out on Emma. Karen sobbed. This time, Mom firmly refused. But Jeff wasn't done. He set his sights on our family. "In my past life, we lived a modest life, so Karen's family had no reason to envy us. They had no resources and couldn't trouble us. In this life, my dad's business was booming, and he had secured many construction contracts. Jeff, once a foreman like my dad, had lost everything after his imprisonment and inability to work. He started harassing my dad at his construction site, demanding money. When my dad refused, Jeff gathered a group of thugs to block the site, preventing work from continuing. Dad had signed contracts with deadlines, so every day of delay increased costs. The thugs didn't resort to violence. They scattered when the police arrived, only to return after the officers left. Their tactics were shameless, leaving my dad stressed and overwhelmed. Jeff even sent people to linger near Lily's kindergarten, which worried Mom so much that she started waiting at the school gate every day. My parents, law-abiding citizens, were at their wits' end, losing sleep and hair over the situation. I, however, remained calm. Watching Jeff's darkened expression, I thought, he's not far from his end. After Emma's eye injury, I accompanied my parents on every visit to the hospital. Near the hospital, there were many small restaurants and stray cats and dogs. But as Emma recovered from her surgery, the stray animals began disappearing. Often, I found their lifeless bodies on the ground. Emma was undoubtedly smarter than most kids. Realizing she couldn't outmatch Jeff physically, she must have resorted to other means. A natural-born villain feels neither gratitude nor empathy. But one thing about them is certain: they always seek revenge. Jeff had burned and blinded Emma, beaten her countless times. She wouldn't wait long to retaliate. My parents were already discussing selling our house and moving away. Then Grandma called. Something's happened at Karen's house. Jeff and his friends, who had been eating together, were hospitalized for food poisoning. Jeff didn't survive. His friends were also severely poisoned. Karen's wails echoed through the phone. My husband's gone. I had always wondered why Karen clung to Jeff so desperately. I thought it was because she was afraid of the stigma of divorce. But now it seemed she truly had feelings for him. Karen's mindset was incomprehensible. My parents exchanged a glance, seemingly relieved. Even they, kind-hearted as they were, had begun adopting a more pragmatic approach to life. This was a good thing. I suggested, let's celebrate tonight with hot pot. Dad agreed. I'll get some beef slices. Lily, sensing the improved atmosphere, danced happily, showing us moves her kindergarten teacher had taught her. That evening, we enjoyed our meal. But then Mom got another call from Grandma. Emma's in trouble, too. Emma had collapsed, foaming at the mouth, and was rushed to the hospital. The doctors said it was drug poisoning that had caused brain damage. This time, my parents didn't even mention visiting Emma. Any pity they once had for her had vanished after seeing her ruthlessly take another child's life. Mom only sighed. I understand. But don't worry, Mom. This isn't your responsibility. At Grandma's request, we attended Jeff's funeral. Mom left Lily with the neighbors, not wanting her to go. I wasn't supposed to go either, but I insisted. Wanted to see for myself whether Emma really had brain damage. And more importantly, who had poisoned her. I already had a faint suspicion. In my past life, Emma had been well-behaved, talented, and especially gifted in art. During a kindergarten art exhibition, her work had caught the attention of a famous artist who happened to visit while paying respects at his family's grave. The artist offered to take Emma as his apprentice, but it required her to move to the capital with him. Not long after, Emma's health mysteriously began to decline. Her hands would shake constantly, and she eventually had to give up the opportunity. Much later, Karen bragged to my mom, if it weren't for my quick thinking, she would have gone off with someone else. How would I have a daughter at home to help with chores? Mom, shocked, had asked, what did you do? Karen replied nonchalantly, nothing much. Just added a little something to her medicine. Mom was horrified, but Karen sneered. Stop pretending. If your daughter weren't such a rotten seed, you'd have done the same to keep her close. At the time, our family was overwhelmed with other issues, and Mom had no energy to argue. This time, when Karen muttered in the hospital, I wish Emma wasn't so smart. I knew she might try something. I just didn't expect her to go this far. At Jeff's funeral, the chaos was unbelievable. Two groups of people blocked the mourning hall. the drowned girl's family and Jeff's poisoned friends, both demanding compensation. They refused to let the funeral proceed until they were paid. Amid the commotion, Emma crawled out, filthy and disheveled. She grabbed a handful of dirt from the ground and shoved it into her mouth. One of Jeff's friends kicked her, and she just giggled stupidly. Karen rushed out and flung herself at the coffin, screaming, "My husband is dead. My daughter is brain damaged. I don't want to live anymore." The drowned girl's family looked at Emma with schadenfreude. "I heard rumors at the hospital, but I didn't believe them. Looks like they're true. Serves you right. My daughter is gone, and your daughter is just stupid now. This is karma." They sneered as they left, adding, "We'll be back next time." The police eventually came to disperse Jeff's friends, but there was no guarantee they wouldn't return. I walked up to Emma. She stared at me vacantly, her eyes dull and unfocused. Our gazes met, and I was certain she truly had become mentally impaired. The tension I'd carried since my rebirth finally lifted. This was good for society. In a way, it might even be one of the few good deeds Karen had ever done. After the funeral, Karen fled with Emma to avoid compensation. No one knew where they went. Meanwhile, Lily began showing remarkable talent in art at a young age. This time, the famous artist successfully took her as an apprentice, and she moved to the capital. Though we missed her terribly, Dad worked hard on his construction projects, and soon we all moved to the capital to be closer to Lily. One day, while watching the news, I saw a report about community workers rescuing a mother and daughter. The daughter's eyes were covered with filthy bandages, and she clung tightly to a blackened stick. My heart sank. I quickly changed the channel, not wanting to see more. Later, I attended one of Lily's art competitions. My parents sat beside me, watching proudly as Lily displayed her skills. Everything was perfect. As long as nothing unexpected happened, I could keep this secret for the rest of my life. Lily was my sister now. Good night.